welcome back to Project Independence and You, Community Talk Radio on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. I'm Rebecca Miller, now along with Otto Los and, of course, Kristina Lou. We're in our first Talk of the Town segment, but I think we just like to recap our guests and, again, a great show, Kristina, really good information. Sometimes you hear of conditions and diseases, and if you don't know someone with it, you don't really know that much about it. I did not know a lot about it, of course, until Stephanie got the job there. And, we started learning about it and just kind of hearing the story and, all that they do and the significant research. It's education. It is. It really is. I had a lot of education today, I have to say.
Yeah, Beck, and that was such a good point because, there was a girl I was friends with actually in high school that had Crohn's disease. And I remembered the struggle she had. There was so much school that she had missed. And it was such a heavy burden. She was constantly at the doctor and having different surgery. It was just, and I remember it so well. We were young, we were in middle school. And I just always felt so horrible for her, because it was just such a daily impact, and there would be these times, that they mentioned that you would kind of have, a remission, for lack of a better word. And, but then you would have a flare up like in the next day, so it's really something that I think I'm so glad we were able to showcase it because, I wasn't that familiar with all the ins and outs, you hear these words and stuff, but, there's so many conditions we're always hearing about, in presentations or, on TV, whatever it might be. And I think to shed light on this foundation that's really doing such incredible things, and just the education piece alone is just so huge. And it's a wonderful website.
You said a couple of things just now. Understanding, you had an understanding and you felt bad for her. How many kids didn't have an understanding and didn't feel bad for her?
Yeah,
and who put her through the ringer with stupid remarks, probably. So I think
and she was so out of it because she had missed so much school. For
younger people also is to understand that people sometimes get problems that they didn't ask for and try to be more understanding rather than knock them down. They need your help. They need support of any kind of disease or handicap, whatever it might be.
Yeah, and that's why I think it is so important to, Beck, you had mentioned it, is to just educate and shed light on these topics, and especially to shed light on these amazing organizations. I mean, just hearing Nikki's story, I mean, having three boys that all have, suffer with this is just, but on a positive note, to hear that the two that were, later diagnosed because of all this education and her involvement with the foundation, and that they are doing better than her first son, who didn't have all these kind of opportunities and stuff. So it's just incredible work that they're doing, and I'm so glad that they're we were able to have them on.
It's all about the advancements they're trying to. There's obviously not a cure. Will there be a cure? Who knows? Autoimmunes are very tricky, but the treatments are getting much more, targeted to the specific person. The thing too is I think a lot of diseases are this way, but this one specifically is everyone has their own triggers and flare-ups and medications that work. I mean, it's so complicated, It's like everybody's a puzzle who has this condition. And it's, you just got to keep trying. So it's great that they do have all these advancements and, ways of testing and medication. So another great guest, Kristina.
And I just want to plug that their website really is a wonderful resource, because when I was doing, prep work for you guys to put together the packets, there was so much information. And I really loved the part that they have when it was these gut healthy recipes, because there were so many different recipes. And I think, for someone struggling like that, it's always like, what can I eat? How do I, and to have this at your fingertips, these little options, I think were so wonderful. And Otto, I believe on this show, we have discussed how great it would be to have an app telling us where different restrooms are. And today we found out, and I downloaded it as well.
I'm working on it now. Excuse me.
So, I mean, how great is that? I do so many road trips with my husband, and that's always like, the guessing game of where do we stop? Is this one going to be okay? So now I'm really excited to have this application. So
Yeah,
really, really
I'm
wonderful.
going to use it.
Yeah, so we could all
It,
report
it
back on
frankly
our
doesn't
on our
apply just to Crohn's. It applies to people
Absolutely.
who
That's what
might
I'm
have other
saying. I mean,
problems.
I drive so far with my husband all the time, and we're always on the hunt trying to find a restroom. So now we have an app.
I
Really
actually do have exit numbers that I know on, like
great.
if we drive up to Saratoga, I know at certain points where there are places that are clean and good.
Yeah, well, see, and now we have an app too.
Preventive
So they were
maintenance.
clearly listening to us.
Right. And like that's what I was saying too. Even restaurants, they may not be able to, they could be food friendly. Maybe they're open to options, but, also knowing that they might have a restroom that's safe for people not to worry. There's so much, like I was saying, that stigma and people who have this that frequently need to run to the restroom may not go out because of it. And that may not go to a restaurant or go to the store or go to a supermarket or a department store or something like that. So if you make these friendly restrooms, you're just going to have more people buying your stuff. So I think it's a good idea. More clients, right?
You're right. I like it. It's a win-win. But just
Yeah.
really great show. It was just wonderful. And of course, if you missed any of the information, always call 311 or 516-869-6311, and we'd be happy to get you connected. And Otto, in answer to your question, you had brought up also, I actually asked Steph for any material or a brochure because after we have a radio show guest, I always like to give that information over to our project independent social workers and nurses. So this way they add that to their toolbox. Because listen, I'm sure there's a lot of seniors that they come in contact with, that have these different diagnoses. And to have this foundation so close that we could refer to and work with is really wonderful. So
You know
that is
what?
that is how the radio show process goes.
What struck me is like Nikki is on the board of directors, and that's a good thing because Nikki
Yeah.
sounds like a lady, obviously, who's smart, but besides
Mhm.
which, she has been through it, so
Yep.
she can understand much more than you or I can because she's lived it, and I think
Mhm.
that makes a big difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Unfortunately,
it's the advocacy piece, and that is so huge in all, in shedding light on any of these things, and the fact that she clearly is, was and continues to be an advocate for her children and getting the resources that they need. I mean, to have, her mom dealt with it and she really dealt with it in so many different realms of her life. So I think it was so wonderful. And that's so true because that's really how you get things done, when there's people who have experienced it and know what the needs are and what's missing. So
She's a real
wonderful.
trailblazer, mother. I mean, she
Yeah.
really is. Like, you could tell she didn't stop, and she still hasn't, until she found the best, the most information, and someone opened their arms to her when she went to the school, and the nurse said, "Hey, there's another family." She was like, "All right, bring me in," and you just go where you can go. You have to, especially for your kids. I feel like if you get diagnosed older, you don't always have that kind of
Yeah.
advocacy. You don't have a mama bear. So it's good to know that there is a foundation like this, and they have so many levels of services and programs and networks and research and community events and information. I mean, it's the real deal. It's the big package. So, even if you have questions, I'm sure you can email, look at their website. Don't be afraid just to ask a question. Find out what's going on. You know.
Absolutely. And just in case anyone is just watching us in Talk of the Town and doesn't know what we're referring to, our first guest was the Long Island chapter of the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation. So, of course, if you missed that, check it out on our website because a lot of great information. I also just want to quickly let people know of some shows that are coming up. We're fully booked for November too. So, in October, we have the Northwell Health at Home program will be on. We will have Medicare 2024 updates and open enrollment. We will have National Grid's home energy affordability team heat programs and services. We'll have some technology and hearing. We will also have, which I'm really excited, this organization that actually I met, the volunteer came to our advisory committee meeting last month, and he wanted to talk to me after because he volunteers. It's the American Red Cross Service to the Armed Forces Hero Care Network. So I never even heard of it. I didn't even know about any of these services. So I'm really excited that they will be on to talk about what they provide. And I thought it'd be nice to have in November. And then we just have a bunch, but then we're going to be in December. So there's a lot of great stuff going on. Continue. If you have any suggestions, always call 311 and I'd be happy to give you a call back.
So is it sweater weather already? I mean,
Uh,
sweater weather, anyone?
It's going to be in the
I'm really
70s next
torn.
week.
I know. See, so this is why I have not done the closet changeover because it's a major process in my life. So I try
Well, it's
and,
supposed to be
you know,
75 next Tuesday.
I
okay,
did
Otto.
my
So then,
closet, so you're welcome because that's what happens. As soon as you
mhm.
do your closet, the weather's
Well, good.
warm.
I'm
So
gonna hold off then. You know what? I'm gonna hold off a little longer, because I'm not fully committed. I'm like in the mid, maybe a flannel. I don't want to go full sweater, but I'll go a flannel shirt. But when this crisp air comes, it
what
is
happens?
really a very fitting time because on Saturday is a very special day. And I believe Otto will be celebrating another trip around the sun. Is that true,
Uh,
Otto?
you mean the stop program?
Is that where you'll be going for your
I will
birthday,
be
Otto?
actually. Yeah.
See, he
Uh,
knows how to kick off. He's so
Nothing
committed
else
to his
that day. I don't know. Pick up the cleaning. What's no, you get that delivered too. So what else is happening on Saturday?
it's
what
Otto's
else?
birthday. Now, Otto,
Yes.
how old will you be turning?
I will be 87. Uh,
87.
A
creeping up there.
youthful 87.
Yeah.
It's just, and
87.
listen, and of
A
course,
number.
Otto,
Just a
we
number,
always
right?
say,
Well, it is a number. I mean, and it's a number you
right.
can't do much about. So you
No,
might as well just go with it, Like I talked to you, Rebecca. I
I
know
know.
you.
I like that. Wait, I gotta play that in my head. Can you record that and send it to me? You're right. You can't do anything about it. It's just a number
Yeah. Well,
measuring something.
yeah. I mean, and is there an option?
No,
Yeah, no.
No, and I think Otto, listen, I mean, in all seriousness, we all say, I know Dan can vouch for us too, because we all say when we grow up, we want to be Otto. I think that's kind of the
Yeah,
slogan
but
of
I
North
say when I
Hempstead
grow up,
at
I
this.
want to be Otto.
See, exactly. He even wants to be himself. This man has his
You
life
don't want
so
to grow
together.
up too much because then you get boring.
See, that's right. And he's just full of words of
I
wisdom,
think you always have to keep a
as well.
little, like Rebecca, you said you and Stephanie have a relationship where you abuse each other a little bit and you make fun of each other and so on. I believe that you have to do stuff like that in life or
I
you get
believe
too
that.
heavy. Everything is
absolutely.
heavy, heavy, heavy. And there's a lot of heavy that goes on in our life. But
Mhm.
even then, you got to try to keep it in perspective,
It
and
is, humor is something, especially in my own family, and I know we've talked about this on the show before, is really how we've overcome so many different obstacles that have been thrown our way. And it's such a part of it. I mean, it's like we laugh sometimes because we're like, how are we making a joke about this, topic that it's kind of heavy, might be a little weird in the outside world,
Yeah,
but that is such a part of our entire family's, coping mechanism. And we're always,
yeah, I mean,
like
that doesn't
poking each
mean,
other.
that you walk around like you're in La La
Oh,
Land and,
right. No, absolutely
you're
not. Yeah.
oblivious. But it means that you try to level it off a little bit so that it doesn't take you over 24/7. And,
Hmm.
I liken it like go back, reflect on my own life. I went through the whole process of diagnosis for prostate cancer. All right. And you really don't know what you're heading into. It can be bad, it can be good, it can be whatever. And you get in the area that I call the gray cloud. Like there's that little cloud that's there. It doesn't go away, but it's there. But you try to avoid the gray cloud until you really until you really get a diagnosis and really know what it is you're playing with. It doesn't do you any good to think about all the different possibilities, what's that going to do for you? You know,
Mhm.
you, you know, you kind of have to play it each step at a time. And it's trite, yes. One day at a time, trite, yes, but so true. And, you know, and life is like that. You know, I'm 87. What am I going to, I'm not kidding myself. I'm not going to be here in 30 years talking about your 42nd anniversary. That's a fact. All right. Uh, but I got
I don't know,
87.
Otto. I think if anybody can do it, it's you.
Well, I
So
mean, the other part of it is I've got 87 years of life behind me that a lot of people didn't get. You know, I know a
Yeah.
lot of people that didn't get that. Trust me. You know, um, so you know you got to take it as what you have, not what you don't have, and that's a line I always hear, and it's so true. You know, be thankful for what you have, not what you don't have. And if you look around in the world, man, we are so lucky. We're sitting here, fat, dumb, and happy, sitting in a nice house on technology. We're not in a shack somewhere, worrying about whether we're going to have a piece of bread to eat. You know, um, I think that's what you have to keep in mind.
no, I think Otto, and listen, you are certainly someone, I mean, I can listen to you and I quote you quite often. I think the Ottoisms that you share on this show, we're so lucky, Rebecca and I and Dan, to, hear you. And you just say these things so with such ease, Beck. I think, right? It's not even like Otto's planning it. These things just like flow out of his mouth, Otto, and it is an absolute privilege to have been your friend for so many years and
But
continue to
I've
be.
worked
And
at that, and you guys, Christina, you're young, and you're working at it already. And by the time you get to be my age, you'll do just fine.
I hope
And
so.
Rebecca, even when you get older, you're not old yet.
I know.
You're going to be
I feel
older.
one of the things that Christina was saying, and Christina and I do talk a lot about this, and I even talk to my mother about it. We'll be doing a show with a great guest. Oh, we got to take a
Oh,
break.
yes, you're gonna have to. I'm excited to
I
hear
got
how
to
this
tell you
goes.
about what this auto thing is. So, we actually have to take a very quick break. You're listening to Project Independence in You, Community Talk Radio, the talk of the town. We'll be right back after a quick break.
Take WCWP with you wherever you go with the WCWP app. Listen live 24/7 to all of our streams, all from one app. Plus, call the studios directly from the app and visit our social media. Download the app through the iOS App Store on Apple devices or the Google Play Store on Android by searching WCWP Radio, or visit WCWP.org for links. The WCWP app, available now on iOS and Android devices.
And welcome back to Project Independence in You, Community Talk Radio on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. We're in our Talk of the Town segment. I'm Rebecca Miller, along with Otto Los, Christina Liu, and Dan Cox. And we were just before break talking about Otto and listening to his perspective on becoming a year older on Saturday. We're not going to age him yet. He's still only 86. But
What a baby.
one of the things that I was saying before we went to break is every show in some way, we'll have a radio show, we have great guests, the responses, the conversation's always wonderful. But Otto, you have this perspective, and is it, because you've been around a while? Is it just something you see? Is your question or comment is something like I've never thought of, and I'm like, oh my gosh, he's right. What about that? Like you have a really I want to say outside the box of looking at things, but there's a humanity in the poignancy of your perspective is what I want to say. And you always bring something in, and I'm like, yeah, God, I wish I thought of that. I got to write this stuff down.
I
But
think it's what I like to do. I look back on my own school, if you will, all right. And I always found if I didn't have a kindergarten perspective of a subject, I was lost. I needed to know things that sometimes are taken for granted, like the low level piece. So I can go from there. And I try to I don't intentionally do that, but I think that's how my brain operates. I'm trying to look at it from a more simplistic point of view, uh, and sometimes the simple is overlooked. Uh,
Yeah, you're
Mhm.
you know,
right.
yeah, and I found that in business. Um, we'd sit around and we'd be yapping and talking for 5 hours and nothing comes out of it. And, and then I'd finally say, well, what's the point here? What did we accomplish? Uh, and with business meetings, I was always, what's the point? What are we trying to do here? We could do it in 5 minutes and
That's why,
without
Otto,
picking.
that's why me and you love some bullet points. I think it's like, let's, get to the key factors here.
Yeah, I mean, isn't that what it is? I mean,
Mhm.
The key
why would,
points, that, right.
yeah,
I think sometimes too, Otto, when you're talking about a particular topic with experts and with senior staff and all this stuff, assumptions are made that
Right.
everybody already is on a certain level of understanding. So sometimes we forget the foundation, what
Yeah.
brings us here. So, not that you're an expert in your field, but I think you do come in with, wait a minute, because you're not your profession wasn't in senior services, and you don't work for the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation. You have an incredible professional history. So, maybe on our part, we just kind of make assumptions that everybody's starting at a level of a certain amount of understanding, but you kind of bring that out. What about this? What about the people that don't really know what you're talking about, or don't have that foundation?
I think some of that's a curiosity, but some of it I look back, and I'm still working actually as a sales coach for an electronics company. Uh, and I look back in my business career, right? I was always in sales and always to corporations. And very early on, there was a thing called ICI, which I went to a 3-week school in Athens, Ohio, and it was a sales training class. And in that class, the one thing that stuck, not a lot of things stuck in my head, but it was this ICI, and it was intelligent customer interviewing. And I was always talking to people about how did they do something now? Could we do it better through whatever we were selling? You know, and I didn't really sell, like force people to buy anything. I would find out if there was really a need and could we fill a need. And I used to tell people, I say, look, I'm going to ask you some questions, and I'm not being nosy. I'm asking you a question because if we have something that's worth your while, I will tell you. And if we don't, I'm going to tell you too, because after I ask you these questions, I'm going to find out you don't need purple socks. So why are we going to talk about purple socks for 2 hours and waste each other's time? Um, and it worked. That kind of questioning, and we would have to do surveys at big warehouses, factories, hospitals, you name it. And we would do a survey about how people were doing things now. And and that part of that was always asking questions that, you know, I, I think if you look at it, I go back to the kindergarten level. I talk to somebody who works out on a dock about what they really do, um, and find out, the basics on how they process something, as opposed to sitting up here somewhere in a tower where you have no clue what's really going on. So I think all of that rubbed off over a lot of years, uh, to the point where, yeah, I do ask questions like that. And it's
Yeah.
instinctively. You know, I'm not like such a genius. I think it's just time and experience that has led me down that road. And
I don't know. I think there's a little genius there. I
I do.
do.
I know. I think he's underestimating himself, Beck.
I
I really
do.
do.
I definitely do. But
well,
that being said, too, one of the things you were talking about, which we talk a lot about on the show, and is one of my kind of favorite things, and even though you were saying it differently, like we talk about using the word manage instead of control, and you were kind of talking a little bit about that, when with the prostate cancer,
right.
I mean, that's exactly what you did. You kind of accepted it, and let's just get through it, and you can't control it,
Right.
but you can do what, the experts are telling you. And I think we're all dealt a hand, and we may look at it and say, well, I want what that person has in their hand, instead of saying, well, this is what you have,
Yeah,
how
accept
do you,
that's a word we've used before on the show, and I think accepting whatever it is, uh, it is what it is, and okay, now what? Um, you know, there's a word, the pity pot.
yeah.
Some people get on the pity pot, and I have people come to me and say, "Oh, geez, I'm 70 years old now." So I say, "Well, so, what do you want me to feel sorry for you? Uh, so you're 70, so big deal. Let's get on with it." But some people, they get a mental state where um, they don't accept the fact that they're 70, and they feel like, "Oh, poor me, I'm 70." So you're 70, okay. So let's get going. Uh, I don't know. To me, it seems
Right. I
simple
mean,
enough.
look at the difference in that attitude or the perspective. Your perspective is, I'm 87. I had 87 years of life. It's been, and I have a home. I don't have to, I have food, I have family. It's two different ways of looking at it. And like you said, you're still having fun. I think that's key. You
Yeah,
gotta have
I
fun.
do.
I
I
really
do. And
do.
I think,
Everything
you
you
hear
do.
all these cliche kind of, sayings all the time. And, but I really do believe, Otto, you too, is that, and listen, you've been blessed with, you're still very mobile and have good health. And I know that there's people out there who aren't as fortunate, of course, right? And that could be a major
No doubt
obstacle
about it. Right.
in it. But I think, as you said, like, these were the cards that you were certainly dealt, and you make the best of those cards because you were out there. I mean, Otto is so active. Look, I mean, the man is still working. And I think, you also are someone, which I believe is such an important part of, keeping youthful and young, is that you're always learning, and you have, you're interested. That's why you're so good on this radio show, because you're interested in learning about these new organizations. And I think, I see the relationships that you have with your children and your grandchildren. I mean, they love you so much. Everyone wishes they had, Otto as their grandpa. And I think it's because you also talk to them and are interested in what, is going on in their lives. And I think that that is always such a beautiful thing, that, you bridge that gap that a lot of times, an older senior might not be able to, relate to their grandkid who, is doing, Instagram and TikTok. So
You
I
know,
think that,
Otto's still evolving too.
yeah,
It's
exactly,
not, you didn't
that's
stop.
exactly it.
You're on that, you're still on your journey. And, I mean,
Is
even,
there
even,
anything on?
go ahead. I was
Go
going to
ahead.
say the ALE, that word, but since I'm home and she's right over here, if I say it, even just kind of getting so into that,
Yeah.
and then I'm sure there's going to be something else technologically down the road, and Otto's going to be like, all right, let's explore this. How could this?
I want to learn about AI.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
See, you're
Well,
still
and Otto, I was, we were looking up different questions and stuff, online in honor of your birthday. And I was like thinking about, is there some, do you have, because Otto always has some kind of project or goal or something. Is there something this year that you're hoping to accomplish, to see, to do, anything in that kind of world?
Uh, well, I have a very
Uh,
long list. All right.
I was gonna say Otto's about to
we
whip
have
out a
enough
list.
time.
Yeah. And to be honest with you, one of the things I'm working on right now is I have a problem, which probably both of you have. Um, Email is becoming overwhelming in some cases. All right. Believe it or not, even though I'm, not actively working. Um, but you get all kinds of emails. So now I'm on a campaign to start unsubscribing, spamming,
Mhm.
report spam, whatever, to reduce as many of them as I can. All right. But that's a nit. That's a current, you know,
Mhm.
something I'm looking at. One of my biggest things really is always to maintain um, a good contact with my wife, and she has her health problems and stuff. Um, and then my kids, my family, my grandchildren. Um, Me personally, I never knew my grandparents. I met one grandparent who came from Germany, my father's mother, to my first wedding, which would have been now in 1960, right? Uh, but beyond that, I never met my mother's father and mother. They were in Germany. They never came here. I never saw them there. My father's father, you've heard the story in the past. We didn't know who he was until not long ago, because of one of my projects was to find out who he was. Uh, so because of that, I guess I want to leave my mark with my grandchildren, uh, to, kind of make up for the fact that I didn't know anything about mine. I have a picture and I know when they were born and when they died. But beyond that, what do I know really? My mother's father made wooden shoes in Germany in a small village. Uh, I can gather from that they lived in a pretty poverty environment. The town had like 800 people in it. So how many wooden shoes can you sell? And uh, and I could tell from my mother, who would never talk about it. I tried to yank it out of my mother many times what it was like over there, but I think it was bad enough that she didn't really want to talk about it. Uh, so, I think that's those kinds of things. And then I always have projects like, trying to polish up the family tree, put some good stories into it. Um, my, what did I call it? The thing I told you, I had notes that go on. Uh,
Mhm.
Chat notes like,
You know
about
what,
it.
Otto? I think I'm going to add to your list, and I really think you should consider this, especially with your kids or your grandchildren. I think we need an Otto podcast.
Totally.
Well, we
Like
have
a full
one here.
auto documentary, I just want
Well,
like a
I mean,
full
like,
doc about
I tell you the truth. I looked and I saw the list you sent me, Christina, 218 people or whatever. So that's literally impossible for anybody to listen to in their lifetime. So one of the things I did think about was to somehow manage to pick out like the top 5 or 10 of those and
Mhm.
store them on my computer so that someday down the road, who knows where YouTube goes or project or WCWP, whatever, um, that they would at least have those few. The other thing I did think about, and it actually started, we've had people in on the show in the past, Legacy. Um,
yeah.
I'm concerned that I'm leaving too much, and I don't have the time to go through it all. Uh,
Oh, no way. Never too much. I
I
don't
mean, I
think so
have
at all.
a thing called my museum. All right, I've culled out I'm a big one on culling out garbage. All right, like
Oh, great.
you've heard my story about we try to help this guy with
Hmm.
Alexa and whatnot, and that house now is sold, and you know, so they're cleaning up the house, and the crap that's in the house is pretty amazing. It's just that, and I have tried to avoid having crap in plain English. uh, I'm a big one to throw it out. All right,
Hmm.
and try to keep. Some of it's important to me, but some of it might be important to future generations. My old Navy uniform, uh, you know, is that important? I don't know, but it's someday it'll be like a Civil War piece. Uh, yeah, actually, when I was born in 1936, if you think about it, there were a lot of people around who were in the Civil War. The
Mm.
time connection. Um, you know, they were in the war, and I never talked to anybody who was, because we're obviously a year old. I didn't know much about it. Uh, but I guarantee you, probably when I was in my teens, there was still people who had some exposure to the Civil War. Um, so you look back in your life and you realize how time gaps, like they flow together. Uh,
Right.
like COVID. I wrote some stuff in my notes about the COVID time. Uh, 50 years from now, uh, my grandson's grandson is going to read that maybe and say, "Wow, that was quite a happening. What went
Yeah.
on back then." Um,
Well, that's such a gift, Otto. You're
so
doing
anyhow,
like
that's when
amazing.
you asked me a question, which was a mistake. You should have never asked me that. Uh,
Well, at least we didn't ask you over the commercial break.
yeah.
But we actually have to take a quick break. You're listening to Project Independence and You, Community Talk Radio, of course, the Talk of the Town segment, and we're just celebrating Otto. His birthday is this Saturday. We'll be right back after a quick break.
WCWP is your home for great music and great conversation. You'll find all that and more on WCWP.org. Listen live on the web, check out the lineup, subscribe to podcasts, and stay up to date on the latest station events. Get in touch with us and let us know if you like what you're hearing. And find out how you can support or get involved at the only community public radio station serving Nassau's North Shore. Plus, sign up to get a free bumper sticker. It's all online at WCWP.org.
And welcome back to Project Independence and You, Community Talk Radio on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. I'm Rebecca Miller, along with Christina Liu and Otto Los, and of course, Stan Cox. We're in our Talk of the Town segment, and we're just kind of celebrating Otto's birthday this Saturday and what's on his wish list for the future and what he's got going on, and in all different kinds of ways. We will get to what's going on in the town shortly.
Well, that's right. Yes.
You won't have time.
Thank-
This is the last segment.
Thank you for that caveat. But Otto, I feel like the perfect wrap up. I mean, I could go on and on forever about how much I love you and what an inspiration you truly are. And I think everyone listening, wants to know what, are your keys, personal, and of course everyone's will be different, but to just staying so young and youthful at heart, no matter how old you are, and just your outlook. What are some good key points you can give our listeners that are
Well,
out there?
I think about that occasionally. All right. Part of it is good fortune, being blessed uh, with genes that have gotten me this far. Uh, you know, you need a little of that because you could be born with problems that you have absolutely nothing to say about. And I didn't have that, so I'm lucky. Now, have I had stuff? Yeah, I've had stuff. I had prostate cancer, I had a stent, and a lot of little things along the way. Uh, but I've always tried to stay active, and by active I mean physically active in one fashion or another. Um, I walk. I'm not like I don't walk 40,000 steps. My goal is to walk like a half an hour. Um,
Mhm.
and then on Sunday mornings when we do the beach thing, that's an hour's walk. Um, so that, and I'm not walking as often as I want. I would like to walk every day, but I don't have the time to walk every day, unfortunately. Um, and I think you have to work at it. Uh, you have to, like you guys are a great influence. All right, I'm going to blow your horn now. We talk about mindfulness. We talk about acceptance. We talk about all these things that are important. But I was always into, like I remember reading The Power of Positive Thinking by Norman Vincent Peale, uh, Dale Carnegie, How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. Uh, I was into trying to help my mind um, be positive. And I do believe, you have to work at that. I find it very hard to believe that. I mean, some people are born, they're just like my friend that was on the show, Dennis Collins, who wound up having uh, 19 stents, diabetes, lost two
Mhm.
legs, and you'd never hear him complain. Never. Uh, and he was on our show. He's not with us anymore, but he was a classic example. Donald Barbieri, who's been on our show, he's not with us anymore either. Trustee at Village New Hyde Park, had all kinds of problems. Would manage with a wheelchair to get into Penn Station to run a shoe store, a shoe shine
Mhm.
shop. Uh, People like that are they're an influence to me. They show you if you're not on the pity pot, what you can do. And I think, uh, like maybe this is not a good thing, but like if I have a choice to read a book like Make Your Bed in the Morning or whatever is one of the positive ones that's out there, or Tuesdays with Maury, or
Right.
uh, that kind of thing, I'd rather do that than read a fiction story. But that's me.
Hmm.
And why do I do that? Well, because I think mentally it's, and everybody's different. I'm not saying you can't read fiction books. I'm just saying that's me.
That's
That's what
Otto's story.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
what makes
Yeah.
me go. Like I have a thing here that I want to read about AI. Somebody else would rather read a Patterson book.
Hmm.
I'm going to read that. Why?
And I've been trying to find a speaker on AI, Otto. I've been like searching high and low at all different things, and I'm trying to find professors, someone that can come on and talk about it because I know that is,
Well, we're going to
one of
get
the
there. There was an article which I didn't read yet in Sunday's Newsday about seniors in AI, and I didn't
Hmm.
read it yet, but I'm going
Mm.
to. Um,
Yeah, I gotta see
but
that. I didn't even
anyhow,
notice it.
it's just, um, the other part of it is that I'm an only child, right? I think part of being an only child was when I was a kid, I was kind of like a ringleader, to be blunt about it. Uh, I lived in a neighborhood where you could go out in the street at 8 o'clock in the morning, and there'd be somebody, some other kid out there roaming around, and we always played something. We would organize, and I would have uh, stickball league, and we would have batting averages, and all kinds of stuff. So I think part of it is also you have to reach out as well. You can't sit there and wait for the phone to ring or for this to happen, because you might be there a long, long time. And then you're going to start feeling sorry for yourself. And that's not a good thing. When you start feeling sorry for yourself, then you're on the pity pot. And that's a depressing thing. And keeps you from doing movement forward. Um, it's, I don't know. It's
No,
complicated.
Otto, you and Beck hit the nail on the head. To sum up, Otto, you are someone who is, constantly evolving. What I love about you, you're not like your typical, older man who, is set in their ways and this is it. I've been doing it this way forever. I'm never going to change. I know so many people in my own family and just people I've come into contact, saying like, I'm too old. This is it. And, that's, I'm not going to change. And I think that's a very common attitude. And I think that's the opposite of you, because I see you and you're constantly trying to learn new things. And, when we'll have a speaker on, you're, all right, I'm going to adopt this into my, life or get this, test or, whatever it might be. You're always willing with an open mind to, if something is going to better your life, you're willing to, give it a go. And I think that that's what makes you a complete, aging success story in general.
Yeah, I've been through some hurdles in my life. My first wife went through pancreatic cancer uh, for a year and a half, however long that takes. We had three little kids at the time. Um, she just hit 40 and she died. Um, I had to contend with that, and I could not be on the pity pot at that point in time. And there were people who thought, well, how can he do that? It's not even been a year yet. Okay,
Yeah.
good. That's the way you handle things, not me. Uh, I I had to try to do what I could do
Hmm.
for my kids, uh, and for the whole situation. Um, you know, um, it wasn't always peaches and cream. I mean, I had a lot of stuff that went on, and I'm not looking for pity on it. I'm just saying, you know, uh, it isn't always just peaches and cream.
Of
I'm
course.
lived like in
Right.
la la land all my life, you know.
Hmm.
Oh no, we get that, Otto, about you. I mean, I don't think you'd have this, perspective on life
Right.
if, everything was perfect and handed to you. We get that about you, and that's what's so amazing,
Well, I
is
think you
you.
guys are like that too. So I think that's why we worked well
Well, I hope
together.
so. That's all I
And
could
when
hope to
John
be, Otto.
Ryan
You're
was
just,
here, John and your mother, and when
Yeah.
John was with us, he went through hell on earth, and he is an example of somebody who tried to do the best he could under those conditions. Um,
yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
Dan, who's hiding behind the mask back there, positive in his approach to
Well, you
things.
know what? I think it's a common theme of our show. Those are the only people we let, involved on our radio
Yeah.
show. I think you just
No
hit the
pity
nail.
party people.
That's right. You get the boot.
Yeah,
But
and we
Otto,
talk to
I
people, I
just
mean, who are dealing with adversity. I mean, all these foundations and different organizations and whatnot, they're helping people. I think that's the one of the things is what's great about Project Independence. And to me, this, all right, is I stumbled into this because of Rebecca's mother. She's the one who said to me, "Why don't you go on the radio?" Well, I'd had done things in my life. I did a lot of presentations and whatnot, in sales meetings and stuff. But no, radio wasn't in my bag of tricks. I had no
little
clue,
did you know.
you know. Um, and
And now
we
there's
were,
television too. Let's not forget that.
well, I
Right.
think that has added to it greatly.
Of course.
I think we have more people watching, I think, than we do
Mhm.
listening. Um, I don't know that,
No, it's
I'm
true. Absolutely. Because who wouldn't want to watch us? You really get to see the extra fabulousness of us. Um, but I know we are rapidly approaching the end of our last segment, and I could talk about Otto and how great he is forever, and I will continue to do so because I'm the producer and I could do that on the show. But
yeah,
for this part, I just want to say, Otto, we love you. We are wishing you another blessed year, and I can't wait to see all the things that you will get involved in. I can't wait to see new lists you will create. I love hearing about
Oh,
your
yes.
projects, and you're a special human, and we are so blessed to have you in our lives. I'm wishing you a very happy birthday, my friend.
well, thank
So
you.
happy and healthy. And you
Happy.
will expect an elf will be dropping something off at your house in the next few days. So stay tuned for that as well.
Uh-oh.
But there is, in addition to Otto's birthday, there is so much going on in North Hempstead. And I just want to remind everyone that Saturday, September 30th, is the Otto's birthday, obviously, but it's also Fall Festival. Um, it is going to have food trucks, music, entertainment. There's going to be a whole bunch of fall themed activities. It's a really fun thing for the whole family. It's over at North Hempstead Beach Park, and it will be from 12 p.m. to 5 p.m. I really, it's one of the nicest events I think North Hempstead puts together. It's always fun for the little ones you see running around, and then there's fun things for the older ones too. So that's you could celebrate Otto's birthday, go over to Fall Festival, then you can go to the Stop event program and unload all your things. You heard this is the key to Otto's success is purging and keeping your mind clear. So I recommend everyone just kind of go and donate whatever you have, and you could shred documents. I mean, it really. I know for myself, I say this all the time. When you start to do those things, you really feel good. Of course, it's not easy all the time, but it's really great that North Hempstead has these events. So that's also at the North Hempstead Beach parking lot, and that's going to be 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. So please, please check these out, these great, great programs. And on top of that, it has been quite the busy week over at Project Independence. There's a lot of great programs that are being scheduled. And what I'm really happy to announce that's hot off the press, I was obviously a couple of weeks ago, we had on Family and Children's Association. They talked about all the wonderful programs and services. Since that radio show appearance, I scheduled a meeting for them to meet with our social workers and our nurses, just to kind of serve as a refresher. We've been partnered with Family and Children's Association since the beginning of, Project Independence, but I always think it's so important to have a little refresher. I know for my own self, I didn't even realize the scope of certain services that they were providing. And one that I really was so intrigued by is this thing called the Smart Van. It's the Senior Mobile Access to Resources and Technology van that goes around. They will also sit with you. We've reserved a room inside as well because let's say you have a question about your smartphone, right? How many seniors have I come into contact with that will walk into our building in Clingy Martin Park and say, I can't figure out, where this is, what's my password, how do I get here? Someone, one of the volunteers or a staff person for Family and Children's will be able to sit with you and go over this. You do not need to make an appointment for this program, which I really, really love as well, because it's like the St. Francis van. They'll provide some technology training, they'll connect you to resources. There's some informal counseling they could assist you with. And then what we're also doing, because it's on Tuesday, November 14th, we're having people from Family and Children's actually be able to sit with you and do your Medicare open enrollment, because it falls in that period. A lot of these things are online based. So many of our seniors might not have access to a computer and even a printer. So if something needs to be printed out, they're able to help you with that as well, which I think is great. So it's a really, really cool program. I'm so excited we were able to finally schedule this. Once again, it's Tuesday, November 14th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. over at Clinton G. Martin Park, in New Hyde Park. So I recommend you check it out. There might be some kind of device you've had, sitting around. I wish I was in North Hempstead because I would send my dad over there, who always has some kind of random contraption that one of his friends gives him and he has no idea how to set it up. So, this might be beneficial for him. But really, really cool program. So I encourage everyone to mark that down on your calendar. We also have a bunch of programs coming up within North Hempstead. It is crazy to think that we are like approaching the end of September, and that means Halloween season is coming. I've been very busy texting with my mom and Jay about, what our Halloween vibe will be this season. And North Hempstead is having two different Halloween parties. They'll be Friday, October 20th. 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. is Fushillo Park. And Friday, October 27th, from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. is Clinton G. Martin Park. There's going to be a light lunch, dessert, music, dancing, games. It's always fun. I love to see the seniors that come dressed up, of course. So mark those down as well. And I know those fill up really fast. So certainly call 311 or 516-869-6311 to schedule your reservation for that. Also coming up, we have Italian Heritage Month. There's going to be a celebration on Thursday, October 12th at 7 p.m. at Clinton G. Martin Park. I believe might be the first year North Hempstead's doing it. I could be wrong, but I think it might be the first year. Join us as we honor the culture and contributions of residents from our Italian community with cultural artifacts, refreshments, and traditional music by Massimalo Barbolino will be performing. So really fun. You don't have to be Italian to attend, obviously. So if you want to learn more and kind of just celebrate, you are more than welcome to, but please call 311 to get more information about that. We also have our Hispanic Heritage Month celebration, which will be Thursday, October 5th. The program is going to kick off at 7 p.m. at the Yes We Can Community Center in Westbury, and there'll be all kinds of food and refreshments and celebrations available there as well. So really cool stuff. I think it's great that North Hempstead is embracing all of the wonderful cultures that are available. And that's something I'd love to do on the show too. I'd love to get people on to talk about their cultures too. So there's so much going on. Call 311-516-869-6311 because there's a whole stack of papers I haven't even gotten to.
Is that it? I can't believe it. A quick 2 hours of this wonderful Project Independence in You radio show. Everyone who's listening, watching, have a great weekend. Happy birthday to you, Otto, and many, many more. We look forward to celebrating for a long time to come. We do.
Well, thank you all. Thank Dan and everybody.
Love you all.
We love you. Listening to Project Independence in You, Community Talk Radio on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. We'll be back next week. Have a great weekend.